Well, this is really interesting. Yuval Noah Harari, who we know is the spokesperson that is the connection to Klaus Schwab at the WEF, he has come out in a report speaking these words to give a message to Benjamin Netanyahu. And here's what he has to say, what I think is very interesting because he must know what's going on. And it's from The Guardian. It says, "My message to Benjamin Netanyahu, stop your coup or we'll stop the country. Plans for the Israeli judicial system are an anti-democratic coup and will be resisted." Now, I told you why they're doing the diminishing of the democracy and the judicial Supreme Court system there in Israel, because they are trying to set up the ancient monarchy behind the scenes. And a lot of people don't know that's what they're doing, but the Lord revealed it to me from the book of Revelation. But it says, amid growing protests about plans to overhaul Israel's judicial system, the author and academic Yuval Noah Harari addressed a pro-democracy demonstration in Tel Aviv on Saturday. This is an edited version of his speech. "We are in the midst of a historical hurricane. This hurricane stirs in us not anger or hatred, but fear. We're anxious. We don't sleep at night. We are simply terrified. And this is perfectly okay. There are moments in history when fear is the most sane reaction. There are moments in history when fear is necessary to propel us to action. Today, we have an excellent reason to be afraid, and we have an excellent reason to act. Don't let anybody fool you. What this government is carrying out is not a judicial reform. It is an anti-democratic coup. This is exactly what a coup looks like. Coups are not always carried out with tanks in the streets. Many coups in history are carried out behind closed doors with pens and papers. And by the time people understood the meaning of what was written in those papers, it was too late to resist. History is full of dictatorships established by people who first came to power through legal means. It's the oldest trick in the book. First you use the law to gain power, then you use your power to distort the law. When examined together, the laws this government is currently legislating have one simple meaning, and you don't need a PhD in law to get it. If these laws are passed, the government will have the power to completely destroy our freedom. 61 members of Knesset, the Israeli parliament with 120 members, could pass any racist, oppressive, anti-democratic law they think of. 61 members of Knesset could also change the electoral system to stop us from replacing the regime. When we ask the leaders of this coup what will keep the powers of the government in check under the new regime and what will protect basic human rights, they only have one answer: trust us. Prime Minister Netanyahu, Justice Minister Levin, M.K. Rothman, chair of the Constitution Committee, we do not trust you, he says. You're tearing to shreds the contract that has somehow held our society together for 75 years, and then you expect us to trust you? We don't trust you because we know very well what you want. You want unlimited power. So that is leading towards the absolute monarchy that I've been talking about. You want to shut us up and to tell us how to live, what to eat, what to wear, what to think, and even who to love. But you don't understand who you're dealing with. Israelis are not good raw material for making slaves. The enslavement of the ancient Hebrews is a core part of Jewish holy texts, remembered especially at the festival of Passover. We Israelis are stubborn, we are free-spirited, and nobody has ever managed to shut us up. We will not allow you to turn Israel into a dictatorship. So what will happen over the coming weeks? They will go on trying to pass their dictatorial laws. They will also go on calling us anarchists and traitors and exploiting or even initiating extreme events in order to suppress the resistance. On our side, we will continue to protest and to make sure that the Supreme Court judges have both the popular backing and the determination to strike down these dictatorial laws. And what if the government refuses to accept the ruling of the Supreme Court? Then we enter a constitutional crisis in uncharted territory, devoid of clear rules and laws. Who will the police take orders from, the government or the court? Who will the Shin Bet and the Mossad take orders from? Who will the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF, obey? And most important question of all, what will the citizens do? The opinion polls are clear. A large majority of Israelis oppose what this government is doing, but polls don't stop dictatorships. History teaches us that the last and most important line of defense in every democracy is you, the citizens. Democracy is a deal according to which citizens must respect the government's decisions on the condition that the government respects the basic liberties of the citizens. When one side breaks the deal, the other side doesn't have to go on fulfilling its part. When a government tries to establish a dictatorship, citizens are allowed to resist. This is a historical test for the citizens of Israel, and if we fail it, we will not be given a second chance. We must raise our heads now, or keep our heads down for the rest of our lives. We must raise our voices now, or keep our mouths shut for the rest of our lives. This is the time to protest, to shout, and also to stand still. For example, as a university professor, I hope that as long as this anti-democratic coup goes on, all academic establishments in Israel will go on strike. We must, of course, continue to support our students in these troubled times, but this is the moment to halt all regular courses and to teach only about democracy, human rights, and freedom. If some of us find it difficult to go on an official strike, I am convinced that as Israelis, we will find creative ways to drag our feet and to ignore orders. Each one of us can throw a little wrench in the gears of the anti-democratic coup. Finally, as a typical Israeli, since I was given the microphone, I would like to take this opportunity to send some personal messages to Esther Hayut, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and to Gali Baharav Miara, the Attorney General. You have been entrusted with one of the most difficult and most important missions in the history of Israel. This is a huge responsibility, but also a big privilege. This is your moment to make history. Don't hesitate and don't back down. Protect our freedom. To President Herzog and to the heads of the opposition parties, safeguard our freedom and don't compromise on it. When a tiger comes to devour us, we cannot negotiate a compromise whereby the tiger will only eat half of our body. To reserve IDF soldiers who are considering what they can do, don't serve dictators. Your contract is with Israeli democracy, not with its undertakers. To the IDF, the Shin Bet, the Mossad, and the Israeli police, if the moment of truth comes, make the right choice. Go down in history as the protection of the citizens, not as the servants of despots. To all the demonstrators who came here tonight and to dozens of other protests throughout Israel, I just want to say I love you. And last but not least, I want to convey a clear message from all of us to Netanyahu, Levin, Rothman, and their colleagues. True, you have 64 fingers in the Knesset, but that doesn't mean you're allowed to shove those fingers anywhere you like. Keep your hands off our freedom. Stop the coup, or we will stop the country. Yuval Noah Harari is a historian and the author of numerous books. And we know that he's the big representative of the WEF and is an advisor to Klaus Schwab. So obviously this Democratic coup is leading to one person being in power as the king, an absolute monarchy. And it's coming, I'm telling you, because it is there in the book of Revelation. And the Lord showed that to me. So it's coming to pass. And all these protests are just, I mean, he said it there when he said that this is tearing the country into shreds. And it really is taking away the freedoms of the people, the citizens. They also had protests with Benjamin Netanyahu when he implemented the third lockdowns, and there was a giant syringe that people were carrying in protest. I don't know if you know this, but when I did that video about the copper syringe project in Israel, it was approximately a year before everything hit the fan regarding the you-know-what planned DEMIC. So Benjamin Netanyahu also made certain comments that are alarming. He made a deal with the top Pharma company, implementing those and let me tell you what he said, because it's shocking. I'm going to kind of have to talk in code because of the situation on YouTube that you can't say certain things. Okay, so please be careful in your comments too, not to mention any of those things, or I'll have to remove the comment. But Netanyahu phoned the CEO of the large pharma company starting with the letter P. He called him 30 times to secure the shot deal, let's put it that way. Efforts that were praised instead of being perceived as exclusionary and putting other countries at a disadvantage. I was impressed, frankly, with the obsession of Netanyahu, explained Boria. He clearly felt no shame in making the P company a willing accomplice in Israel's apartheid practices and propaganda. The views expressed in this article belong to the author and not necessarily reflect the editorial policy of the Middle East Monitor. And then you must know that there was this headline: Netanyahu's obsession helped the pharma company choose Israel for study. The Times of Israel had written, impressed with Netanyahu's shot obsession. In the interview, Boria said it was very appropriate for humanity that one country be chosen as a testing ground for the efficacy of the pharma shot. I was talking with several heads of state. I spoke with your prime minister. He convinced me that Israel is the place with the right conditions, Boria said. I was impressed, frankly, with the obsession of your prime minister. He called me 33 times. But I think what got to me was this statement within these paragraphs that you have to hear. He says, this is the CEO of the pharma company starting with the letter P, rhyming with riser. We knew it would be good for humanity if we chose one country where we could demonstrate what the shot of the population could contribute to the health of its people and also to the economy, because the economy could be reopened, Boria said. Of course, I talked to several heads of state, including Netanyahu, and he convinced me, listen, that Israel is a place with the right conditions for experimentation, he added. Although Israel was only ranked 54th out of 195 countries in a 2019 Johns Hopkins study, terms of its readiness to handle a worldwide illness, its semi-private health maintenance organizations with their digital databases was perhaps the key reason that the pharma company chose Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu noted this important role those HMOs played, which he said in a Fox News interview last week, cover 98% of the population. The HMOs served as a ready-made infrastructure Israel used to distribute the shot. But that really gets me right there. Is that statement that Benjamin Netanyahu told the CEO of Riser that he convinced me that Israel is a place with the right conditions for experimentation. So what does that tell you? All of this we know is an orchestrated plan. And what is the plan? Taking down all of these countries in such a way that they could control them so they can implement the king that they're going to set upon that throne and have him be the world leader with the world Supreme Court there in Jerusalem, with building the third temple by the orders of the king, and him taking a seat there and demanding that his subjects are submissive to him. And if not, they will face a penalty, which we know is horrible. Now, the citizens of Israel are already losing their rights, and this is why, because they're setting all of this up. And then you'll have all of the one world religion there, the Chrislam and all that junk, going right there to Jerusalem, the Scarlet Harlot, which is Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, which I told you when the Lord revealed that to me, it was opposite of everything I'd ever heard. And the Lord revealed it from Scripture. And now this is just proving my point over and over again. And you can't tell me that that copper syringe video that I did 1 year approximately before all of this came down the pike wasn't orchestrated somehow to elevate this situation where they could put a king on the throne there and elevate themselves and make the rest of the world subservient under their feet. It's coming because that's what the prophecy is telling us. So this is what I had to tell you right now. I just could not believe that statement. And the homesteaders, I think they're called Doug and Stacy. My friend Jay sent me their video, and he was talking about the digital ID and, keeping track of everybody's medical records, that they have created the largest database to keep every citizen in check and to know what all their health records are. So this is setting up, and the time of Jacob's trouble is very close. A lot of stuff is happening in Israel with all these protests because the people are being suppressed, and it's literally changing the face of Israel that we knew. So clearly the times are at hand, and all of these events that are happening there are just unbelievable, showing that this is what they intend to do, is behind the scenes set up this one earthly king on the throne and try to restore the throne of David and Solomon and have him in the third temple. So in an absolute monarchy, what I told you by definition, in certain places the people can worship the king, or they can be forced to. And that's what I see happening in the future. Please like, subscribe, and share. And please support me in my channel. I do a lot of work that goes unpaid, unacknowledged. And I would just like to be able to not just get by every week, but to be able to buy food and do things that I need to do. So I don't have a home yet, and I pray that God opens doors for that soon. And by the way, experimentation on the citizens of Israel is really a hideous thought, and absolutely shocking to hear those words. It proves that the whole thing was one big experiment on the citizens of the world. I hope you're not only shocked and stunned, but that you'll share this message so that people know the truth about what's happening and what's coming. I'll see you in the next video.